Good afternoon, all of you. And good afternoon, everybody online. करेक्ट दिव्यांशी, कम से कम तुम्हारे केस में बेड का झंझट नहीं होगा. सोचो बाकी बच्चों के लिए तो बेड भी एक झंझट है. Good afternoon, all of you. Good afternoon, Himanshu, Mahendra. Happy Valentine's Day to you also, Mahendra. Good afternoon, Pooja. Good afternoon, Jagriti. Good afternoon, Devashish. Karan, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Divyanshi, Goldie, Dimple, Jasleen, and Sambhavi. Okay, so let's get going. Couldn't see you yesterday because all things were blocked, so I could not make it here. But I found a new way for myself. In any case, the borders were functional today, but रास्ता भी ढूंढ लिया है मैंने. So let's get going on things. Last class when we stopped at E and S. So there was a G which was waiting, corporate governance. So we stopped having talked on environment and corporate social responsibility. And so I hope you would have given a heading corporate governance. Oh, clauses of companies act नहीं लिखा था. हाँ, चलो वही लिखते हैं फिर. So you write the first point within that. You write the clauses of Companies Act, first point in that. So what we are writing is that for corporate governance, what all things have been introduced in the Companies Act 2013. Again, we will not write all the things, but we will write the major 4-5 points that have been included. So you write first in that. The company will have to appoint at least 50% independent directors or at least 5 independent directors or at least 5 independent directors. So it's either or. You can either appoint 50% directors as independent directors or at least 5 directors as independent directors. All right. Remember one thing in that. I repeat what I told you this last class. Independent directors will be people who have been experts in their field, but they are not directly attached to the company. For example, they cannot be the shareholder of the company and they will not be the workers of the company. They are there as the experts in their own fields. All right. So you write in that independent directors who can also act as whistleblowers in the company. Who can also act as whistleblowers in the company. So that's another important aspect, that if the company takes a wrong decision, then in that case the independent directors can actually highlight that if they are there. I'll give you an example. United Breweries Group, they appointed Vijay Mallya ji as their chairman in 2015. And by then Vijay Mallya ji had been convicted of willful default and he had left India. So all the independent directors of United Breweries Group, they resigned en masse. And as they resigned, it put pressure on the regular board of directors and they've revoked the appointment of Vijay Mallya. So this is something that is an important understanding, that if the company is not doing well, then with respect to ethical concerns, the independent directors having no attachment to the company can actually use their reputation to highlight it, that this is not something good happening in the company. Then you write next. The company has to submit its audited report its audited report to Ministry of Corporate Affairs Ministry of Corporate Affairs on an annual basis. On an annual basis. Now, that's again an important thing that they are expected to do, that you submit your audited report to Ministry of Corporate Affairs on an annual basis so that everybody knows that their audited report is in public domain. I'm sure we all recall, I had told you this earlier, that audited report implies a report with all details about transactions done by the company, that all transactions done by the company are in that audited report. So, and that has to be submitted to Ministry of Corporate Affairs on a regular basis per annum. All right. So, audited report के अंदर आपके tax payment, your honorary payments, your wage payments, your contracts given, your projects taken up, everything is present. So in that case, the company submitting their audited report means all detailed information about the company will be present with Ministry of Corporate Affairs, which can again keep their functioning transparent. Next, you write, third, there should be at least one general body meeting, of the company each year. There should be at least one general body meeting of the company each year, and at least one meeting of board of directors, in each quarter. So understand this again, that one general body meeting of the company each year. General body meeting means where all shareholders, all participants will be there. All right. So in that case, even if I am a small shareholder, I want to raise an issue, I can raise an issue, and that brings transparency. All right. And board of directors meeting at least each quarter that they meet, and then the independent directors can have a say. Some directors who may not be the promoters of the company but working in the board of directors can have a say. So the more time they meet, because there has been a record in India in some companies where the board of directors meeting did not happen even once in the year, and the general body meeting was not called for 4 or 5 years. So to avoid that thing from happening, the government made it as a rule. And then you write one more, fourth. Each company should publish or report the name of their shareholders who are holding more than 2% shares in public domain. This is done to assure that cross-holding of shares is known to all the participants. I'll tell you what I mean by that. Suppose I am an individual and I am holding 10% shares in company A, and there is another individual who is holding 15% shares in company B, and I am also holding 15% share in company B. Now, what I can do is I can use my shareholding in company A. I can be on board of directors of company A, company B, or I can be at least in a position to influence company A and company B. And then I may be taking decisions in company A to benefit company B and vice versa. And, and I may be using other individuals with say 15% shares and all to help me in that. And nobody will be exactly knowing why am I doing it, because my exact shareholding pattern is unknown. So there have been instances in the past in India when people have held big shares in 2-3 companies, and then those 2-3 companies have come together, done business, and this is where the insider information has worked in their favor. So that is the challenge again, that don't let the insider information prevail. Make sure that if somebody is working in a company, working in a system, then they are at least challenged within that. All right, and at least it is known. अगर मैं 2% से ऊपर शेयर होल्ड करता हूं, कम से कम पता होना चाहिए कि ये शेयर होल्डर है दूसरी कंपनी में भी. Then if I suggest some decision to be taken, some action to be taken, at least I will be in the public domain. It's difficult to otherwise know things. All right. Yes, yes. नहीं, लेकिन वो टाटा ग्रुप ही है ना. लेकिन अगर रतन टाटा शेयर होल्ड करने लग जाएं से किसी और कंपनी जैसे ह्यूंडाई में भी, और वहां भी वो सब्सटैंशियल शेयर होल्ड करें, और अब ह्यूंडाई और टेल्को आपस में कोऑर्डिनेट करें चीजों को बिना मार्केट में इस बात को एक्सपोज हुए, दैट इज अनफेयर ट्रेड प्रैक्टिस. उससे दिक्कत नहीं है, मेरी ग्रुप कंपनी है, पूरे मार्केट को पता है कि ये टाटा केमिकल भी चलाते हैं, ये टेल्को भी चलाते हैं, ये टाटा होजियरीज भी चलाते हैं. दैट्स नॉट अ कंसर्न, बिकॉज देन आई एम डूइंग मल्टीपल बिजनेस एंड माय मल्टीपल बिजनेसेस कैन सपोर्ट ईच अदर. ऑल राइट, वो कंसर्न नहीं है. कंसर्न तब होता है व्हेन इट इज हिडन, इट इज अननोन. सो समबडी इज टेकिंग सपोर्ट फ्रॉम समवेयर व्हाइल द कॉम्पिटिटर्स वोंट नो. ऑल राइट, दैट बिकम्स अ बिग चैलेंज. All right, so these are some of the clauses on corporate governance. Keep this in mind when you talk about this ESG norms. That's important. Environment, social responsibility, governance. All right, this is something which is continuously in parlance. In fact, in many West European countries, now there are specific ESG norms, and if you don't fulfill it, you won't get investments. You know, these are also clauses that have been brought in. So keep that also in mind. Okay, now I take you into next debate. The next debate, this is again related to industry and industrialization, and mainly in today's class I wanted to talk on that. Again, these are things that earlier I would take up in the test series, but I thought that if you know these things, it will be better from your prelims understanding, because the government has been quite bullish about these things in the recent past. So now I'm including it as a part of your course that I'm teaching in the classroom. So you write a question and we will discuss that. You write, critically analyze the evolution of structural pattern in India. Structural pattern in India after liberalization and suggest the actions that can be taken to improve the structure and its requirement. To improve the structure and its requirement. So I'll tell you why it's a recent phenomena, why we are, or what is the phenomena first of all, and why it is a recent phenomena, and why we discuss it in that manner. Like what is our interest area in that? What is unique to India? That is what we are focusing on. Let's see a few things first. So if we take, a percentage share in GDP, and if we take agriculture, industry, and services, and if you will go back to India before 1991, I'd given you a list of what all is contained in which. I mean, agriculture contains what and industry contains what. So industry is manufacturing, mining, electricity, gas, water supply, and construction. All these four are industry. Industry doesn't mean only manufacturing. Even though manufacturing is around 70% of industry. Like if you say 100 units produced in industry or 100 rupees value produced in industry, 70 rupees will be manufacturing. So many times it is used interchangeably, but technically speaking, we cannot use it interchangeably. All right, it has to be used separately. So manufacturing is a subset of industry. You need to keep that in mind. And if we compare the share in 1951, 1971, or let's keep it as this, 1951, 1991, and 2022. These are the actual data that we have with us. So 1951, agriculture contributed 53% of GDP. And industry contributed around 17%, services around 29%. I'm avoiding the decimals, so it's not adding up to 100, but approximately this was the story, 1951. By 1991, we see that agriculture's contribution had come down to 29%, industry contributed 28%, and services contributed around 43%. So what we saw between 51 and 91 was, in fact, if you recall, when I was teaching you the structural evolution of India, we had done it as 51, 71, 91, before 91 case also. You know that how things evolved from 51 to 71, then 71 to 91. I'm just stretching it further now to 2022, that how it went after that. So, because it's something interesting that comes in here. So what we see is that the share of industry goes up, the share of services goes up, which is understandable. The share of industry will go up because government was heavily into industrial mode. So we were going for capital goods development and industrial diversification. So the share of industry was rising. The share of agriculture declining, I'm sure all of us can appreciate, does not imply agriculture doing badly. It only means industry and services were doing better. All right, don't forget that this was the time when agriculture was having its yellow revolution or blue revolution or white revolution. So it's not that agriculture was doing badly, especially yellow and white, apart from green revolution, no doubt. So ये नहीं था कि agriculture खराब कर रहे थे, but industry and services were doing far better. So the share of agriculture was coming down. You would expect that to happen. Why would you expect agricultural share to come down? Why did it happen globally? Look what happened globally. Globally, if you see human evolutions, human civilization development, we saw that earlier we would be hunter-gatherers. We killed the animal, we ate it up. If animal killed us, it ate us up. You know, all that would happen. Then gradually things changed. We became sedentary. We started doing agriculture. And then we started doing agriculture, becoming the large scale. But that, when agriculture was dominant, it doesn't mean industry did not exist. We were wearing clothes, so somebody was stitching it. We were using chariots, so somebody was making the wheels. Somebody was making the chariot. All that is industry. We were using furniture, so somebody was making the chairs. So it is industry, manufacturing. And similarly, there was service also, like trade was happening, transportation was happening. But the dominant theme was agriculture. So globally, the world remained agricultural dominated till the feudalistic world. Then the industrial revolution happens, and post-industrial revolution, we start growing in a manner where manufacturing becomes dominant. So Industrial Revolution 1 followed by 2, and that meant that more and more manufactured goods now became dominant. Like now we had clothes produced on a mass scale and shoes produced on a mass scale, and gradually the complex consumer goods like say watches and spectacles produced on a mass scale, and then durable consumer goods like refrigerators and televisions and washing machine, and then produced on a mass scale. So this was all consumer goods development. Along with that, now as we produced more consumer goods on a mass scale, we needed machines to produce them. So that was the beginning of light capital goods, like say a power loom. You understand that? And then those power looms started becoming bigger, and then industrial rollers would come in, and big locomotives would come in. So this was big capital goods industry. So we had light consumer goods, complex consumer goods, durable consumer goods, in between small capital goods, large capital goods, and large scale capital transformation. So this was industrialization of the world. Something between 1750 AD to till around 1950s. Those 200 years was heavy dominance of industry, manufacturing in most of the developed economy. If take America for example, till as late as 1956, as late as 1956, industry contributed 54% to America's GDP. So it was not services. I mean, just to tell you the transformation, today services contribute 87% of America's GDP. That is why when Trump says we will make America great again by manufacturing, the fellow is less educated, and he is playing on the mind of Americans who are less educated. America cannot become great again by manufacturing again. They have already passed that bus. It's like saying, let's make India great again by investing in agriculture. So you invest in agriculture and you make agriculture more productive, but we have passed that bus. We cannot make agriculture go back to 53% dominance. And that was my question, why not? Why, that is a question mark. आप कहेंगे नहीं सर क्या बात कर रहे हैं आप ही वो आदमी है जो किसानों पे आंसू गैस बरसा रहे. Absolutely true. It's low value addition aspect. A potato will never earn you as much as what a potato chips will. And you know what? I'll make it better. A potato chips manufacturer will never earn as much in per minute terms or per hour terms as the creative writer who writes the creative of the advertisement for that potato chips. That's value addition. That's agriculture to industry to services. एक मोबाइल फोन मैन्युफैक्चरर कभी वो नहीं कमाएंगे जो मोबाइल फोन के डिजाइनर कमाते हैं. कि सर्विस का कमाल है, सर्विस सेक्टर का कमाल है, वो पैसे ज़्यादा देगा क्योंकि उसकी प्रोडक्टिविटी हाई है, वो ज़्यादा लोगों को रीच आउट करता है. ये मजाक मैंने अपने जो मेरे ऑफिस के पीएन है MIT में उनके साथ किया था. उन्होंने मजाक शुरू किया था. वैसे उन्होंने कहा कि मैं दिन भर यहाँ रहता हूँ और फिर भी मुझे आपसे 1/10 भी पैसे नहीं मिलते, जो आप आते हैं और 8-10 कंप्यूटर पे अलग अलग जाके हाथ चलाते हैं और आपको मिल जाता है. तो मैंने उनको यही कहा था कि मुझे हाथ चलाने के पैसे नहीं मिलते, किस कंप्यूटर पे कैसे हाथ चलाने हैं उसके पैसे मिलते हैं. मुझे वो आता है. अगर आप भी पढ़ लिख के वो सीखे होते तो आपको आ जाता. अपने बच्चे को पढ़ाइए, यही नौकरी करेगा और मुझे रिप्लेस कर दे. ये हमारा ड्रीम होना चाहिए अगले इंडिया का. दैट इज. तो फिर उनको मैंने समझाया अभी कि पढ़ाई का क्या इंपॉर्टेंस है. बट दैट इज द होल आइडिया कि आपकी समझ, आपकी एक्सपर्टीज, वो आपके लिए value addition करती है. Agriculture is raw material. Raw material will never fetch you as much return as others. Then some people say, yes sir, but that doesn't mean we can shun agriculture. Of course we cannot. That is why you have the Samuelson-Balassa effect. Samuelson-Balassa effect is explained by two economists, of course, Samuelson and Balassa. So Samuelson-Balassa effect is the economies will grow and will keep growing, and gradually the primary sector will lose importance, the secondary will become important, and finally tertiary will become important. But you would need a minimum number of people in the primary sector. You cannot do without them. You need your food security and you need your supply chain established. So what do you do then? Those who are in, this is Samuelson-Balassa effect, that those who are in primary sector or those who are doing lower end activities like say a barber or a carpenter or a mechanic will be paid higher than their marginal productivity to keep some people incentivized to remain in that work. That is what you see happening in America or Britain or Germany or France, that you will see that a barber gets paid much more, or a carpenter gets paid much more, or a farmer is paid much more compared to their productivity, because they want to incentivize them to be there. But that's it. You don't need to necessarily bring everybody into that sector. And other sectors are paying much higher. So some people, like say, take America again. So 1% of their population, almost 1%, 0.8% is in agriculture today. And that 0.8% population contributes 1.2% to their GDP. What does that mean? That if I am in agriculture, I'm earning proportionately more. You understand that? So this is what we see happening in developed countries. Why are they earning proportionately more? आप समझिएगा, मैं आगे आपको कुछ बताने वाला हूँ. But 0.8% people in America in agriculture workforce earning 1.2% of GDP, proportionately earning more. While take it for a country like India, 46.5% of the workforce in agriculture and producing 17% of GDP, earning much less proportionately. And let me teach you agriculture. I'll tell you more things about it. But that's the important thing to understand. That we are paying our farmers much lesser compared to what our GDP is. In developed economies, it's opposite. They're getting a little more than the number of people, which keeps them kind of satisfied that, okay, I'm also making some returns, even in a low value addition work. So agriculture cannot become the bulwark of growth. The point is that agriculture is an important thing, but it cannot be the bulwark of growth. आप ये नहीं कह सकते कि मैं अपना growth plan ही करूँगा agriculture पे. हाँ, आप अपना growth agricultural industry and उससे related services पे plan कर सकते हैं. For example, in Australia or in New Zealand, they plan their growth on agricultural industry and the services related to that. For example, dairying, for example, poultry, for example, agricultural tourism. You understand that? That you can plan. Research and development in agricultural products, developing genetically modified crops which are health-wise safe and easy to produce. So they are planning, that is about using agriculture as your base, but doing industry, doing services to let it grow better. You understand that? So this is global method. सबसे पहले agriculture dominant होता है किसी भी country में. Then manufacturing or industry becomes dominant in GDP, and then it's services. All right. But in India, what we saw happening here was that agriculture share came down to 17%. Industrial share was 30%, and service sector share was 53%. So we see a transition in India where it transitions from dominance of agriculture to dominance of services. All right, we see a transition in India where there is a transition from dominance in agriculture to dominance in services. This is what starts happening. And that is something we are debating now. That this is something that has happened in the last 30 years post-liberalization. It was not happening at that pace earlier. If you see, industries were growing, services were growing, and it was not that industries were becoming stagnant in their share of GDP terms. Here, industry almost stagnates as a percentage of GDP. It's services which take the larger share overall in growth. Again, it doesn't mean industry stagnated. Industry as a share of GDP stagnated. Let's keep things clear. $220 billion was India's GDP in 1991. 28% of that is $61 billion, and say around $3.3 trillion has been India's GDP. Let's keep it at even $3 trillion. India's GDP in 2022, and we see that it is $900 billion industry. इसमें एक और बात ऐड करूंगा तो आपको और, क्योंकि कुछ लोग इंडिया में बोलते हैं इंडिया का इंडस्ट्री ही स्टैग्नेट हो गया है. ये एक झूठ बात है. इसको एक और बात से मैं क्लियर करता हूं, आप सुनिएगा ध्यान से. In 1991, these numbers are after the devaluation of currency. So we had made it 20 rupees a dollar immediately after we had liberalized. So $61 billion into 20, if you do that, it will be 1.2 trillion rupees, a little more than that. All right. So 1.22 trillion rupees is this. All right. This is what it was. 1.22 trillion rupees. 122 लाख करोड़ रुपए अगर ऐसी बात 1.22 lakh crore rupees अगर ऐसे बात करें. Now it is 80 rupees a dollar. So if you multiply this in rupee terms, if you convert, the growth is even more tremendous. So it will be 900 billion multiplied by 80. You understand that? That is where we are by 2022. So if I make a $900 billion multiplied by 80 to convert it into rupee terms, then I land up with something like a 720 trillion value. You understand that? Or 72 trillion value. So now from 1.2 trillion rupees in 1991 to 72 trillion rupees by 2022. So in real terms, आप समझ पा रहे हैं मेरी बात? ये समझाना ये चाह रहा हूं कि अगर मैं इन्फ्लेशन के लिए एडजस्ट भी कर दूं तो भी इंडस्ट्रियल ग्रोथ हैज बीन ट्रेमेंडस इन इंडिया पोस्ट लिबरलाइजेशन. Then you will say, then what are we debating? I hope everybody got the rupee and dollar conversion. We are debating that was that India's potential or was India's potential higher? And if India's potential was higher to grow in industries, why India did not achieve it, and why we had a service-led growth rather than an industry-led growth, while no other major economy has seen it. No other major economy, it's India alone, where the growth was service-led rather than manufacturing-led right from the beginning. So this is something we are debating now, that what are the reasons? Of course, one reason is historical, one reason that Britishers did not develop industry in India. But that's long back, and that's not a significant value now. So we need to get into this now. So what I am going to teach you is, what is the importance of industry in development? That is one. Second, what steps has the government taken in the last 10 odd years to promote industrialization of India? Third, why we could not still grow then, what are the challenges? And fourth, the way forward, that what structural reforms we need to make sure our industries do better. Do I believe we are clear on that? In the process, I will also make you correlated to a concept we did in macro when I taught you the idea of natural rate of output or full employment output. You recall that? That is where we discussed also about the determinants of it, or the potential GDP, as in one of the GS papers they asked us. All right, so this is what we will again go back to and try understanding. But that is on agenda today to understand this. And then once we have understood these, we will try understanding that, okay, if there were so many hindrances on industrial growth, what led to service growth then? That how come services did so better and did so well for themselves? So we'll go into all that in the next 1 hour or so, maybe 1.5 hours. So let's see this. We begin with first things. You write below that, importance of industry in development. You're correct. Agriculture is relatively inelastic. You are right, Ritu, and hence less income growth. So, Yashasvi, there is no ideal percentage share per se, but gradually as you keep growing, it is then expected that agriculture share should go down, much of it, and industry and services should replace it. हैप्पी वैलेंटाइंस डे टू यू ऑल्सो अभय. अब हम दोनों ही बचे हैं. ठीक है. आई एम परफेक्टली फाइन तन्वी, थैंक यू. Real growth of industry after adjusting for inflation. I'm asked a question that what is the real growth of industry after adjusting for inflation after 1990? The real growth of industry after adjusting for inflation has been on an average 7.2% in India in the last 30 years. That has been the real growth of industry, inflation adjusted. That's quite a decent rate to grow at. But again, that is what? It is a decent rate to grow at, but is that the maximum we could have thought of? That is what we will be discussing, because India kind of an economy has a potential to have a double-digit growth of industry, even double-digit growth of GDP. Even today we have that potential for next 10-15 years, that we can plan a double-digit growth. After that, we would have become too high on the base to think about a double-digit growth. That is what is important. One challenge we have is managing the diversity. That is what we have to understand. And the democratic government. That's another challenge. That since we have a democratic government, we don't bulldoze through. But India cannot be ruled by autocracy. इसीलिए कोई अगर बोलते भी हैं that, if Mr. Modi wins the third term, then that will be the end of democracy in India. No question of end of democracy in India. We are internally democratic people. तो वो बहुत मुश्किल है. आप कभी कभी देखेंगे, पता नहीं आप, मैं काफ़ी जगह पे गाँव में जाता रहता हूँ, वहाँ पे कोई बात हुई एक बार, मुझे मेरे ही गाँव में बात हुई, तो उसकी भी बात बताता हूँ. और एक बार मेरी बात यही बात है हरियाणा के एक गांव में हो रही थी, वहाँ भी लोगों ने एक जैसी ही बात कही. तो कुछ बात हुई, हमने कहा कि भाई लोकसभा में तो इतने सीट आप दे देते हैं बीजेपी को, और विधानसभा के चुनाव में नहीं देते, किसी और को वोट दे देते हैं। ऐसा क्यों होता है? एक कम पढ़े लिखे सज्जन थे, ही वॉज अ लेस एजुकेटेड पर्सन, एंड सर सारा पावर एक के हाथ में दे देंगे तो दिमाग खराब नहीं हो जाएगा? This was his response, that if we give all power in the hands of one, this fellow will go absurd. But that's inherently democratic. And this fellow was not well educated. It was not that this fellow was very well educated and knew things, but this fellow had an idea of how a system can work and how things can be operational and so on. So that's giving you one idea. Plus we are too diverse. Again, for one dictator to rule us, the dictator will find it a big headache. We are too diverse to be that. Maybe somebody can operate with a mansabdari that Akbar had introduced, but controlling is difficult. Having said that, why I say that it's a difficult pattern? Because then you can't move fast, and that is why we tend to go slow at times. But there was a very good aphorism created for India. In fact, it was created by Dwayne Pert. He's an economist in Pennsylvania. He said that India is not the East Asian tiger, because India is not that swift, and India is not the roaring dragon, he was calling the Chinese, because India is not unified. But India is a shod elephant. So if India moves, it makes things work, and India moves assuredly. It doesn't go back on what it has done. You understand that? So that is a very, very correct assessment of India. Since then, they coined India as elephant. So we were never called a tiger, and we were never called a dragon. Dragon, in any case, we can't be called. But we were never called a tiger. We were always called an elephant. But then we move assured like an elephant. So everybody is certain that, okay, if they have moved, it is all after the consensus, and now the move won't be taken back. This has been, I don't know in future what we will do, but this has been a very big plus point of India, that people know that things have not happened. But once they have happened, and they won't be taken back. So this is what India's reform have been about. That we have not done some reforms, but whatever reforms we have done, nobody went back on it. If you recall, the left parties were in government, and they were within the government in the 96-97 part, 96-97 part. They were also, Harkishan Singh Surjit was one of the co-plenaries. In fact, the Lok Sabha speaker was a left party person. So it was, they also controlled India. 2004 to 2008, the UPA government was supported entirely by the left parties. Without the left party support, the government would have collapsed almost, which was looking like happening after the nuclear deal. But then it was supported by Mulayam Singh ji, and they survived, But what I'm trying to highlight is that even if left parties have been in government, they have not gone back on reforms. Outside the government they say ये neoliberal reform है, मैं इसके पक्ष में नहीं हूँ, मुझे ये पसंद नहीं है. लेकिन जब खुद सरकार में होते हैं तो वापस नहीं करने को कहते उस रिफॉर्म को. ये नहीं कहते ये रिफॉर्म मत करो, या ये नहीं कहते अच्छा अब नियम बदल दो, प्रोटेक्शनिज्म ले आओ, या इन्वेस्टमेंट अलाउ मत करो, FDI को वापस भेज दो. इनफैक्ट आफ्टर Jyoti Basu ji, when Buddhadev Bhattacharya ji became the Chief Minister of Bengal, then he was more than eager to attract investments into Bengal. So even if there are, or for that matter, even the Kerala government, Geeta Gopinath became the IMF chief economist, so she had to go there. She was their economic advisor, a so-called neoliberal economist, because that's what she is, having been trained in American universities. So because that is how they look at us, any of us, anybody trained in American university, a normal person with a left prism will see, अच्छा ये neoliberal regime के बाई प्रोडक्ट होंगे, ऐसा सोच होती है उनकी. फिर धीरे धीरे उसको ठीक करना पड़ता है, क्योंकि जरूरी नहीं कि सब लोग एक जैसा सोचे. बट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग इज दैट, तो समझाना मैं ये चाह रहा हूं दैट पार्टीज हैव क्रिटिसाइज्ड थिंग्स व्हेन दे इन ऑपोजिशन, बट व्हेन दे हैव कम इन पावर, even the left parties have not gone back on many of the things that they would say otherwise in opposition, that we would not have liked or we would not propose it. All right. And same thing applies on BJP. When they have been in opposition, they have criticized few things, but when they have been in power, they have gone with several things that happened. So overall, India has been taking those assured stances about how to reform. The one challenge we have today in public domain at the moment is that our reforms are suffering, because now the conviction about reform is a little less. All right, that whether we should do a second generation reform and go past things, that is a little less because of, again, the dominance of deglobalization and all those effects in India. So I'll carry you through all that, but keep it in mind. But we are assured, that is the point I was trying to drive home, कि कोई पार्टी कुछ भी बोले opposition में, जब सरकार में आते हैं तो कोई अपने अपने बात को वैसे ही करते हैं. अब जैसे राहुल गांधी जी बोलते हैं कि मैं जो अदानी है वो करप्ट हैं, बट अदानी के इन्वेस्टमेंट जो छत्तीसगढ़ में है या राजस्थान में है, जब उनकी सरकार भी थी वहाँ, उन्होंने मना नहीं किया, हटाया नहीं, कैंसिल नहीं किया, वो चलते रहा. और मैं इसको कोई पॉलिटिक्स से नहीं बोल रहा हूँ, उनके ऊपर एलिगेशन नहीं लगा रहा. ये अच्छी बात है कि आप बोल रहे हैं तो आप समझ रहे हैं कि मैं कुछ भी अपना बक रहा हूँ पॉलिटिकल डोमेन में, लेकिन जब आप राज करते हैं तो आप में अकल है कि मुझे कैसे सरकार चलानी है, किन की ज़रूरत है, किन की ज़रूरत नहीं है. इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू हैव दैट अंडरस्टैंडिंग, बिकॉज व्हेन यू आर आइडियोलॉजिकली ड्रिवन ऑन समथिंग, देन देयर इज नथिंग फार विच कैन मेक यू अनदर वेनेजुएला और मेक यू अनदर ब्राज़ील. दैट्स ऑलवेज अ डेंजर दैट पुअर कंट्रीज हैव लाइक अस, that we need to keep in mind. India has, I've told you this earlier also, please keep it in mind. India has a very unique feature that we are macro rich and micro poor. That is a unique feature we have. Macro rich means what? You look at our GDP, we are the 5th largest in the world. तो वो ईगो बूस्टर है. कोई जैसे मैंने भी कहा ना, वी आर अ रिलेटिवली पुअर कंट्री. तो तुम लोग तो खैर इकोनॉमिक्स समझते हो, तो थोड़े से आराम से समझे मेरी बात. लेकिन जो नहीं समझते इकोनॉमिक्स, वो इमीडिएटली जंप करते हैं, क्या पुअर बोल रहे हैं आप, हम 5वें सबसे बड़े अर्थव्यवस्था हैं, आप बोलते हैं गरीब हैं हम. So they don't realize that we have this unique character that we are the 5th largest economy in the world, and among the top 10 economies or top 7 economies, we are the only economy which is not even a $5,000 economy, not even a $2,500 economy per capita. So micro poor. हमारे बाद जो सबसे गरीब टॉप 7 इकोनॉमी है पर कैपिटा टर्म्स में, वो चाइना है, एंड दैट इज अ $14,000 per capita income economy. You look at it, USA $65,000 per capita income economy, number 1. Chinese at number 2, around $14,000 per capita economy. Germany now number 3, Japan has been displaced there. So Germany now at number 3, again $55,000 per capita income economy. Japan at number 4, $60,000 per capita income economy. And then India at number 5, $2,400 per capita income economy. It brings a huge stark, trend there. जितने भी कंट्री हैं, उसके अलावा भी आप देखिए, नंबर 6 इज ब्रिटेन, अगेन $55,000 per capita income economy, $50,000 approximately. Number 7 is France, $45,000 per capita income economy. So you look at any of these countries, and they are all above $40,000 per capita income in the top 10, except for India and China. Even China is $14,000 per capita income. It's only India which is $2,400. But we are macro rich, we are the 5th largest. So that brings the unique challenge that India faces, कि हम big economy दिखते हैं, लेकिन फिर world ये realize नहीं करता कि ये economy big है, लेकिन गरीब है, इनके लोग उतने अमीर नहीं हैं. So we need to address that challenge. This is something that is addressed when we do industries better. That is what can be addressed then. All right, so I'm now taking you into that. You write the first point, this is importance of industries. You write the first point, industrial development results in higher employment opportunities, comma, because industry is relatively more labor intensive than services. Then you write second, industrial growth has a larger accelerator impact, larger accelerator impact because of growth of capital goods industry, and intermediate goods industry. It helps in assuring lower capital output ratio, by promoting higher efficiency of capital. I hope you get the point. There will be accelerator impact. There will be better capital goods produced. Accelerator impact is one industry supporting the other, the supply capacity being enhanced. So if I have more capital goods industry, more intermediate goods industry, like say a petroleum refinery is an intermediate good industry, all right? And aluminum smelting is an intermediate good industry. And similarly, a locomotive industry or an industrial roller industry is a capital good industry. So if we have more capital good industry, more intermediate good industry, that promotes more and more possibility of growth of industrialization. Also, it will mean more efficiency of capital, so a low capital output ratio. All right, that is what has been promoted. Next, you write, third, higher industrial growth also leads to higher GDP growth because of the linkages of industry to both agriculture and services. I hope you get the point that industry will have a linkage with agriculture. Industry can supply tractors or harvesters or pesticides or fertilizers to agriculture. Industry can supply consumer goods to agriculture, and industry can supply automobile for say a transportation industry, transportation services, or a railway locomotive for a transportation service. Industry can supply hardware to the software services. You understand that? So that is where industry will supply those commodities that services will be needing. All right, that is how industry and services get interlinked. Then you write next, fourth point. Higher industrial growth leads to better provision of commodities, and therefore controls inflation in the economy. Then you write next, industrial growth industrial growth leads to division of labor. What is division of labor? Growth by specialization. That is division of labor, a growth by specialization. So leads to division of labor, due to which there is higher scope of productivity enhancement, and improved standard of living as more workers from agriculture can be absorbed in industry. And then you write one more. Higher industrial growth leads to promoting research and development, by taking the economy to larger production of higher end products. जैसे स्क्रीन ब्लैक हो जाए ना तो मुझे बता दिया करो. नहीं, 1 सेकंड में 3 पॉइंट तो नहीं हो पाएंगे खैर, लेकिन एक बार मुझे पता रहेगा ना तो मैं रुक जाऊंगा. ठीक है. Okay, people online, you don't worry. What we will do is in any case, I was dictating the points. So one of your friends from offline can take a picture and put it on the group from the points on role of industry in development that I had said. In any case, I am regrouping it so you will be able to understand the point better. I'm just answering a question that I am asked online, that sometimes we say that we are relatively poor, and sometimes we say that we are not typically a developing country. So can you explain why? The reason is we are typically poor in the sense that we don't have even a $3,000 per capita income economy. So we are the lower middle income group country, but we are not a typical developing country because we are industrially diversified. We are a large economy. The typical developing economies are normally not seen like that. We have our own higher education segment which is quite established. We have research and development centers which are established. Typical developing countries don't look like that, the way we look like. But that doesn't mean we are rich. That doesn't mean we are well-to-do. In fact, that is showing the dualism in India. You know, that on one hand we have people who can talk at the upper level and can compete. Aap soch ke hi dekhiye, you will get my point. Take top 10% of India. So top 10% of India has an income level, per capita income level of approximately 1 lakh rupees per annum, per month. Now 1 lakh rupees per month is around 12 lakh rupees per annum. That is how it comes. Take 12 lakh rupees per annum. Even if I take it at a market exchange rate terms, it will be $15,000. But more realistically speaking, if we take it at a purchasing power parity term, it will be far more, because if we take purchasing power parity at something like 25 rupees to a dollar, then 12 lakh rupees will mean $60,000 per annum as the income of the top 10% of India. So $60,000 is like a developed world. So the top 10% of India, top 1% of India, we talk like developed world, we behave like developed world, we try addressing the issues like developed world, but in turn we don't realize the rest 90% is not that. That is what we need to realize. कि अब इंडिया के टॉप 1% को ले लीजिए, ये वो लोग हैं जिनकी इनकम 5 लाख रुपए पर मंथ से ज्यादा है. दे आर टॉप 1% ऑफ इंडिया. अब 5 लाख रुपए पर मंथ से ज्यादा होने का मतलब हुआ कि आपकी इनकम 60 लाख रुपया पर एनम से ज्यादा है. Now 60 lakh rupees per annum income means that you are earning $3 lakh per annum. That's a Harvard professor's salary. And that's what you are earning per annum. So in that case, obviously you will talk different. But that is not India. So that is where we have to understand the dichotomy that India is. Hence, I keep saying that we are not a typical developing country. We have industrial diversification. We have education system which is better developed. We have research and development facilities in our country comparatively. But we are not a developed economy. We are not even a middle income economy at the upper end. We are a low middle income economy because our per capita income is low. And then there are many people living in rural areas. There are so many, like एक तरफ मैंने आपको ये बातें बताई, अब दूसरी तरफ सोचिए 19% people completely illiterate in India, even if I take the NSSO data. Now 19% is some number. 19% of India's population will come out to be something like 25 crore people. That in itself is a huge number जो completely illiterate है, जिनको अपना नाम तक लिखना पढ़ना नहीं आता किसी भी लैंग्वेज में. That is the level of illiteracy we have in India. Functional illiteracy बोलूँ तब तो बहुत ज़्यादा और हो जाएगा नंबर. Functional illiteracy होता है जहाँ पढ़ लिख गया हूँ, नाम लिख सकता हूँ, उसके ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं आता मुझे. That is functional illiteracy. That's even huge in India. So that's the dualism I highlight when I say that we are not a typical developing country, but we are still a relatively poor country. So keep it as that in your mind. Okay, now when we say that going back on farm laws will spook the investors. See, the investors don't go back, don't bother about going back on the farm laws. They bother about your long-term trajectory. What have you been doing? We went back on the farm laws because hopefully, or maybe the government was itself told that there were laws that were not fully supported by the institutions we have in India. So you can't make the law and then make the institution, or you can't make the law and then bring up the rules. You will have to make the law, and along with that your institution should be there to arrange the law. So maybe that was the reason that government went back on farm laws. They were half-cooked laws, if you ask me. All right, coming back to this, again I repeat, we need industry for employment. We need industry as an accelerator. What does accelerator do? An accelerator works as support to further industrialization. So if we develop capital goods industry, if we develop intermediate goods industry, which we developed in India, then that plays the role of accelerator, and that results in pushing further industrialization up. We also talk about industry playing a role with respect to linkages with agriculture and services, which can promote GDP growth in India. What are those linkages? It can supply raw material to agriculture. It can buy raw material from agriculture. It can supply hardware to services or machines to services, and then it can buy services. Like if there are industry, then they can buy banking and insurance and trading and transportation. इसको खरीदने वाले कौन होंगे? जो industrialist हैं. So industry has linkages with agriculture as well as services, and if industries grow well, then due to those linkages, the overall development is faster. I can believe you recall the idea of linkages. Backward linkage and forward linkage, and together they create the supply chain. ये बहुत साल पुरानी बात हो गई, लेकिन हम पढ़ते थे एक बार इंडिया बिफोर 91 में, backward linkage, forward linkage, and the entire supply chain. Then industrial development will also imply division of labor, training of the workforce, productivity enhancement, absorption of workers from agriculture, and that will mean that higher level of standard of living. which everybody can get. Industrial development will also mean more supply of commodities, and more supply of commodities will mean less inflation, or at least stable inflation. And industrial development promotes R&D, because as we grow industrially, the higher end value products grow, and that means the research and development grows along with that. So this is the story of what industries do to promote growth. Then you write below that, steps taken by the government to promote industrialization in India, in the recent past. And you write in that, आप अभी नंबर 1 2 करके नहीं लिखेंगे, पहले एक पैराग्राफ लिखेंगे. You write, the government introduced national manufacturing policy in 2011 with the objective of increasing the share of manufacturing to 25% of GDP by 2022. Like in 2011, the share of manufacturing was 12% of GDP, 12-13% of GDP. So the objective was to increase it to 25% of GDP by 2022. But we have hardly succeeded in that. Today it is around 17% of GDP. All right, the share of manufacturing today in 2023 is 17% of GDP. Then put a comma and write, to create 100 million new jobs in manufacturing. To create 100 million new jobs in manufacturing. So that was again an aim, to create 100 million new jobs in manufacturing. The government in fact gave a roadmap also. They said that in the next 10 years, by 2011 to 21, we will be adding 200 million people to the workforce, 20 crore to the workforce. And they said out of these 200 million people who will be added to the workforce, we will give jobs to 100 million people in manufacturing. That was the aim. Again, but the total jobs we have been able to give in manufacturing has not been more than 40 million. So we have fallen short by almost 60 million in the last 10 odd years. In the same thing you write, put a comma, to increase technical coefficient of manufacturing, Now, when we say to increase technical coefficient of manufacturing, it means making manufacturing technically superior, like usage of raw material, type of technology used in production of the commodity, making it technically superior. Like the way you produce a wheel, you can produce a wheel with hand, and you can produce a wheel with machine, and you can produce a wheel with modern machines. So the way you produce it is the technical coefficient. So they say that technical coefficient of manufacturing to be enhanced. In the same thing you write, and training of the labor force to make them adapt to make them adapt to manufacturing development. To manufacturing development. So I'll tell you what that implies. You cannot make the agricultural labor force overnight into an industrial labor force. So if you want to make the agricultural labor force into industrial labor force, some basic training has to be given to them. One basic training is working on time, used to working at a particular period, meeting deadlines. These are all trainings that you need to give the workers. There are these trainings that was said government will give them some basic education to work on things. Unless we again don't give that, we will not be able to promote manufacturing in India. All right, that is one aspect. You change the paragraph and write, in 2014, government introduced Make in India policy. Now, the printed notes that I have given you, you will see a lot of details on things that I have taught you in factual terms. All right, like even if you look at things with respect to industrialization, or even if you look at things from public sector reforms, you will see some factuals out there. The purpose of giving you those notes is that please do read through those factuals. They will allow you to understand things much better. All right, that is the aspect there, that those factuals are to be understood. All right, government introduced Make in India policy. Make in India policy. And identified 25 industries, 25 industries which will be supported under Make in India. Now, what does Make in India imply? Make in India implied manufacture in India. All right, that develop manufacturing within India. That is Make in India. That manufacture in India. We don't rely on imported goods alone. We will manufacture within India, and 25 industries were identified as that. Manufacture within India. All right. From Prelims point of view, keep it in mind. I don't think they will go back to it, but still, it's a lion made up of industrial tools. That's the symbol of Make in India. All right, it's a lion-shaped thing, but made up of industrial tools. You will see that it will have all the wrench and plolex and all that within it. So a lion made up of industrial tool is the symbol of Make in India. All right, so it's like lion, that is India, moving on industrial tools hereafter. All right, so in India, after a full stop, you write, government promised support. Government promised support to these industries, comma, through fiscal incentive, comma, taxation support. Now, fiscal incentive can be a subsidy support that the industry will get, all right? And then the taxation support, comma, marketing support, including export market, and and research and development support. Full stop. The government has taken following steps. The government has taken following steps to promote manufacturing in India. Government has taken following steps to promote manufacturing in India. And you write first, production linked incentive scheme. We will keep calling it PLI scheme. Production linked incentive scheme. Okay, you write, put a dash and write PLI scheme was introduced in 3 industries. 3 industries, that is automobile, electronics, and textile in 2020-21, so 2021 financial year, 2020-21, under Atmanirbhar Bharat announcements. Under Atmanirbhar Bharat announcements. Full stop. In the same thing you write, in the same year, the scheme was expanded. In the same year, the scheme was expanded to 10 industries. And in the budget of 2021-22, it was expanded to 13 industries with a budget of rupees 1.97 lakh crore, with a budget of rupees 1.97 lakh crore. In 2022-23, government added a 14th industry. 14th industry. In a bracket you write drone industry, DRONE, drone industry, with a separate budget of rupees 361 crore. change the paragraph. Under PLI, 361 crore, 361. Then change the paragraph and write, under PLI, government identifies, under PLI, government identifies particular firms in the chosen industry and gives them a sales target over 5 years. Full stop. If the firm is able to meet the sales target, then, I repeat, if the firm is able to meet the sales target, then the government will give them a subsidy. Government will give them a subsidy of 4% to 6%, subsidy of 4% to 6% of targeted sales value, Of course, the subsidy will be predetermined, like the company will be knowing whether they are getting 4% or 5% or 6%, but anything between that will be given to them. I'll give you the example. It is something that we are doing in India, जो मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ ये अभी चल रहा है इंडिया में. So suppose government identify a sector electronics, and within that sector government identifies Samsung and tells Samsung that we want you to sell commodity worth 15,600 crore manufactured in India, like with the Made in India label, in the next 5 years. All right. So suppose the Samsung industry is told that between 2021 and 2025, you sell all these units. All right. You sell it from India. And we expect you to sell this much amount. And then suppose they are told that if you are able to achieve this target, then government will give you 4% of this amount, which is 624 crore rupees, as incentive for producing in India. All right, say that is the case. कि सरकार सैमसंग को पकड़ते हैं, उनको बोलते हैं आप ये मैन्युफैक्चर करके इंडिया से बेचिए. आप again, it should be manufactured in India. You can sell it anywhere. So you can sell it in a foreign country, or you can sell it in India. You don't need to necessarily sell everything in India, but it should be a made in India product. So they are told that you manufacture in India and you sell this much, and if you are able to achieve the target, then 4% of that we will give you as an incentive. So this is production linked incentive scheme. And again, think then, if government has made a provision of 1.97 lakh crore for the next 5 years, if government has made a provision of 1.97 lakh crore for the next 5 years, assuming that this is a 5% incentive, just assuming it can be anything between 4% to 6%. So let us say it is a 5% incentive. Government is expecting anything between 35 to 40 lakh crore to be produced from India in the next 5 years. Under the PLI scheme, there will be other productions also, but under the PLI scheme, that is what they are projecting, that this much should be produced, and 5% of that we will give as incentive, and the rest the firms will produce on their own. So this is the projection of PLI. The idea is to manufacture in India, to produce from India. Again, I'll teach you this, but say there is a talk, Dr. Rajan picked it up, and then many others have followed up, saying that value addition, how much is that happening in India? Now there are two, three things to understand in it. Number one, if value addition in India is higher than the subsidy we are giving to the company, that in itself is a plus. Suppose if the company adds 1,000 crore value in my country and gets a subsidy 624 crore, I still have a plus, number one. But my point is not only that. Right now we see that value addition, and what the opposition system does, it picks on its own. Government picks something else. So government picks the average. So government says, look, value addition is 35% in India. Well, actually what's happening is in automobile, in textile, in pharmaceutical, the value addition is 47%, 49%, 48%. That is the value addition happening in India. So in particular sectors, the value addition is pretty high. All right. On the other hand, in some other sectors, the value addition is not that high. For example, electronics, especially say a mobile phone. Now, how much is the value addition there? It's around 17 to 19%. But imagine now, if somebody is producing 17 to 19% value in India, initially itself, and taking away 4% or 5% as incentive, that is still a win-win thing for India. The important thing to understand is that. Not only that, initially nobody will come and add a lot of value within the same country. It's a global supply chain situation. People will buy from other countries. They will import commodities from other countries. So it won't happen that overnight India will be a big value chain producer. China, which has been an established manufacturing power, still has the total value chain or value addition done in its country at 48%. While Chinese are Chinese, I mean, world has seen nothing like them in the past. कि पूरी दुनिया का प्रोडक्शन वही कर रहे हैं. एक टाइम तो ऐसा था कि पूरे दुनिया भर का प्रोडक्शन उनके यहाँ हो रहा था. अभी तो पिछले 2-4 साल में थोड़ी बात नीचे आई है. Last 3-4 years we have come down, but they would produce the entire world's production, you know. But still Chinese never crossed 48% value addition. So targeting the government saying that value addition India में कितना हो रहा है, तो हमें ध्यान क्या रखना है, और मैं आपको लिखवाऊंगा भी ये बात. We have to take care that the value addition should not become lesser than the subsidy paid. But value addition is not the only thing that is happening. Then it generates employment. As it generates employment, it will create multiplier effect for other industries. Also, if tomorrow somebody, like take Apple. So if Apple comes to India, produces in India, and that will mean that gradually Apple will also bring in its input suppliers to India, which it is already doing now. Apple will also develop its input suppliers in India, like the deal between Apple and Tata is suggesting. These are advantages you will get only over a period of time. It doesn't happen immediately. All right. Also remember one more thing. Government will get money from the sales of these commodities as GST. If these people import commodities, raw materials into India, government gets import duty. The corporates making profit in India will pay corporate tax to the government. So the scheme is self-financing. Where is India paying out of its pocket? You understand that? And I can't believe that economists will not understand this. You know, at least the senior economists. So then either they act not understanding it, or maybe they know something that I don't know, you know, to be honest. But you know, whatever I have known as an economist in my career, I see that with respect to finances of this scheme, we are on a good state. So what are the challenges then? Where is the challenge coming up? One big challenge is that, okay, some people say that, well, if you, this is a temporary thing, and once you remove PLI, they will go back. That's again bordering on ridiculous. We are telling them come and manufacture in India. Take Apple. So Apple comes to India, manufactures in India, sets up its manufacturing unit, establishes its dealership network, establishes its you know, transportation network, everything, and then after 5 years, just because a 4% incentive is gone, Apple will fold back, or any company for that matter. Makes very less sense. Why will they make all those fixed investments then? They're coming in, if there was no fixed cost, if it was only an FPI or an FII, I would have understood they can go back. But once it's an FDI and I'm bringing investments into the country, I'm setting up a factory, I'm setting up manufacturing units, you know, why would I go back? Yes, some people say, yeah, they will go back because India may not give them enough profit. Possible. But we cannot divorce PLI. Again, if PLI happens and nothing else is done, if PLI happens and nothing else is done, then obviously industry cannot grow. But we cannot divorce PLI from national logistics policy, infrastructure development of India, labor law reforms that the central government has passed, waiting for the state government to pass it. So if we divorce it from that, then obviously, अगर कोई बोलते हैं सिर्फ PLI से तो कुछ ज़्यादा नहीं होगा, ये सही बात है, इसमें कोई डाउट नहीं कि सिर्फ PLI से नहीं होगा, लेकिन PLI combined with other things can actually act as one place where India can attract inputs, investments in a China plus one world. So this is, but again, PLI alone cannot do it or may not be able to do it. But we have to see PLI in a holistic sense of what else is happening, and that I will teach you. But that is a challenge that we will have to go for infrastructure development. We will have to go for labor force training. We will have to go for labor law reforms and so on. So there are other reforms needed in India, but PLI then can be a good game changer as it comes. Another danger with PLI is it can lead to lobbying, which is very common in India. That everybody will start queuing up in front of the government office, the North Block, Finance Ministry, and they'll say, now, please bring my industry in PLI, मेरा ही firm को PLI दीजिए. ये ड्रामे शुरू होंगे ज़रूर. And this is very opaque. अभी हम PLI में किसको चुन रहे हैं, इसका हमने कोई hard and fast rule नहीं बनाया. Ministry जिसे ठीक समझते हैं, उसे pick करते हैं. That's not transparent. All right. ये एक दिक्कत होती है जब सरकार for the lack of a better word I am using it, but जब सरकार faith पे चलती है, भक्ति पे चलती है, ठीक है, कि सरकार को तब लगता है मैं कुछ भी कर सकता हूँ, तो सरकार बोलते हैं मैं PLI पे चूज कर रहा हूँ कंपनीज को और मैं देश की भलाई के लिए ही चूज करूँगा. भले ही आप देश की भलाई के लिए चूज करें, बिल्कुल ठीक बात है, but you should not only be honest, you should seem to be honest also with your actions. That is the whole point of it. All right, but that is not happening at the moment. कि सरकार को पता है कि मेरे खिलाफ कोई बोलेंगे तो मैं बोल दूंगा ऑपोजिशन है, और जो मेरे पक्ष के लोग हैं वो मेरी इन बातों पे तो ध्यान ही नहीं देंगे, वो बोलेंगे नहीं सरकार कर रही है, ठीक ही कर रही है, ये तो देशभक्त लोग हैं, ये लोग गलत थोड़ी करेंगे. So we are divided like that, and that's a challenge, no doubt. So ideally we should have a more transparent mechanism of picking up companies who will be included in PLI. And another challenge it can throw at us, possible, but it can throw at us, is that if it starts displacing Indian companies by foreign companies. Like if foreign companies come to India, establish themselves using PLI, then what about the Indian suppliers and Indian manufacturers? What are we doing to help them out in that? So these are 2-3 aspects of challenges of PLI, no doubt. We need to call that out as we implement PLI. But in the last 3 years of PLI, we have seen production picking up in automobile. We have seen production picking up in pharmaceutical. We have seen production picking up in electronic goods much more. अभी सरकार को भी आप सुनेंगे, वो हमेशा टाउट करते हैं कि आप देखिए पहले हम मोबाइल फ़ोन के इंपोर्टर थे, अब हम मोबाइल फ़ोन के एक्सपोर्टर हैं. They will always, and that's not false, that's true. We used to import mobile phones, today we export mobile phones. So all that is the success story of PLI. In some other sectors, it has not yet fully picked up. Like white goods, it has not picked up. White goods होते हैं जो जैसे refrigerator or television or washing machine without a microchip in it. So we don't see PLI picking up in white goods. We don't see PLI picking up in pharmaceutical equipments. उसमें भी PLI है, pharmaceutical equipment में. वहाँ हमने नहीं देखा PLI को pick करते हुए. हम import ही कर रहे हैं ज़्यादा. So these are places where PLI has to pick up. But overall, till now, the story has been quite encouraging when it comes to PLI. All right, if somebody studies it in detail. Yes. Defense is not in PLI. There will not be a need of that. Defense is long-term, large-scale manufacturing. So you can't promise people only a 5-year horizon. जो लोग आएंगे डिफेंस में 10-15 साल के लिए आएंगे कम से कम. We have improved defense exports, no doubt, but we have improved defense exports because we have been able to rejuvenate HAL. हिंदुस्तान एरोनॉटिक्स लिमिटेड की हालत ख़राब थी, उसको सरकार ने थोड़ा ठीक किया है पिछले 4-5 सालों में काम करके. DRDO की हालत अच्छी की है, तो वहाँ से डिफेंस एक्सपोर्ट्स बेटर हो रहे हैं हमारे देश से. Yes. That is a difficult to comment thing. because if they had not invested anywhere, we would have seen that. But government is very clear about promoting EV as the future vehicle that we have had. So maybe larger investment in EV can be because of business prospects, that people visualize it to be the vehicle of future. So the one who takes the lead always is better off. So they're doing it for that purpose also. Low value addition in. Oh, that is because electronics is a very heavily supply chain component driven plant. So you will have electronic component moving across China. We get a lot of inputs from China. We get a lot of inputs from South Korea. So input market is huge. Plus, one thing I can tell you, a big part of electronics is designing. And due to intellectual property rights being weak in India, the companies are not designing in India. So designing is around 30-35% of value addition that we will be doing. And that designing doesn't happen in India. Plus India doesn't go on international dealership, again because of high taxes in India. So international dealers are not established in India. जैसे तुम सोचो, इतने दिनों के बाद हमारे यहाँ एक Apple का डीलरशिप खुलता है, एक्सक्लूसिव डीलरशिप जो एप्पल के, तो ये क्यों लेट से होता है? क्योंकि हमारे टैक्स सिस्टम काफ़ी कॉम्प्लेक्स है. Alright, so that is, if we do all that, then dealership networks, designing, then we can do much better. Only manufacturing will not create as much value.
So this 4 to 6% incentive that also for a few years, will it be enough to induce a long-term impact, like a huge impact?
The incentive is to immediately attract people to come to India when they are shifting out of China. So which country to choose, if that is the discussion, they say, okay, let's go to this country. After that, it is assumed that India will give them ease of doing business. India will give them better markets. India will give them better supply chain, and that will attract them to India. All right, that is the aspect. If India doesn't give them all that, then in any case, even Indian companies won't do business in India. That is to remember. Okay, now you write below this, benefits of PLI. Benefits of PLI. India is the largest producer of automobile now, of mobile phones now, Vasundhara. Chinese are no more the largest producer of mobile phones. We are the largest producer, but value addition in India is not that high. Okay. Then you see this. You write, first point, it can encourage investment in manufacturing, which will contribute to GDP growth. Second point, it can promote employment. It can promote employment in sectors like automobile, electronics, white goods. I repeat again, white goods are commodities without a microchip. Commodities with microchip are called brown goods. All right, that is the difference. Like a laptop or a smart television, they are called brown goods. And commodities without a microchip, they are called white goods. White goods, textile, etc. Next, you write, it has the potential to make India, it has the potential to make India an important part, an important part of global supply chain network, an important part of global supply chain network. Why? Because then if many industries come and establish themselves in India, then they will also develop their input supply mechanism, they will also develop their dealership networking mechanism, and that ways India becomes an important aspect of global supply chain network with both backward and forward linkages applied to global supply chain. Next, you write, it can generate high tax for the government. It can generate high tax for the government. Then next, it promotes growth of component suppliers. It promotes growth of component suppliers or ancillary units, growth of component suppliers or ancillary units, which are mostly in MSME sector, micro, small, medium enterprises, which are mostly in MSME sector. Now that's again something that is already happening in electronic goods, that we are using a lot of components from MSME. In automobile, we are using a lot of components from MSME. So what these enterprises do, the bigger one, they supply their technology to the MSME. And they tell MSME, look, you can't sell to anybody else except us. But that gives an established business for MSME for a long period of time. So that is another thing that is a benefit of a PLI scheme as it comes. And then you write challenges. Challenges of PLI. You wrote 5 benefits, right? Yeah. You write challenges of PLI. First, you write the value addition in India, can be lesser than the incentive. Can be lesser than the incentive. That is one challenge, that value addition in India can be lesser than the incentive. We should watch out for it, that value addition should not become lesser than the incentive that we are giving. Second, the scheme cannot attract long-term investments without developing structure of Indian industry, like labor law reform, infrastructure development, etc. Infrastructure development, etc. Next, you write, it can result in lobbying. It can result in lobbying and therefore inefficiency. lobbying, and therefore inefficiency in distribution of benefits. Next, you write, it can result in dominance of global investments, dominance of global investment, which can also result in negative impact on domestic producers. All right. So this is a critical analysis of PLI. I did it separately. Of course, when you are writing an answer on steps taken by the government to promote industrialization, you won't write all these things. You will only mention PLI. This I did that in case they ask you a 150-word question only on PLI, then you should be able to do a critical analysis that this is the way to move, or this is the thing, these are the things to do. Once you know the challenges, keep it in mind. Once you know the challenges, your conclusion is already established by suggesting solution to those challenges. All right, that is the aspect to keep in mind, that we know the challenges and then the conclusion is established via the solution to those challenges. Always define it कि कहीं अभी एग्रीकल्चर भी मैं पढ़ाऊंगा तो बहुत जगह आपको सॉल्यूशन आई मीन कंक्लूजन नहीं लिखवाऊंगा क्योंकि चैलेंजेस का मतलब ही है उनको सॉल्व करना है. ऑल राइट, दोस सॉल्यूशंस आर द कंक्लूजन. यस यस, I will be talking about it. I will teach you labor law reforms, spending around an hour on that. What labor law reforms are needed in India. But to begin with, to train you guys better, ये मजाक कर रहा हूँ लेकिन मस्ती कर रहा था आप लोगों के साथ, लेकिन आपकी जनरेशन के लिए ये बहुत ज़रूरी है. ये हमारी जनरेशन में भी ज़रूरी था, लोगों ने किया नहीं. बेटर ट्रेनिंग का मतलब क्या होता है? कॉलेज डिग्री दे देना, स्कूल डिग्री दे देना ट्रेनिंग थोड़ी होती है. ट्रेनिंग टू बी अ वर्कर होता है, कि आप कैसे वर्क करने को ट्रेंड है. उस ट्रेनिंग का पार्ट क्या होता है? आप सोचिए, मैं क्विकली आपको 2 मिनट में एक बात समझाता हूँ, आप सुनते रहिएगा ध्यान से. बी केयरफुल इन व्हाट आई एम टॉकिंग. सो how are we educated today? I was incidentally saying the same thing today in the morning GS class also, my 8 to 10:45 class. How do we train workers? What do we do today? So we start the training from school days, and training doesn't mean education only, the training. So how do we train ourselves? Wake up at 6 in the morning, reach a school at 7:30, and then stay in the school for 5-6 hours, wear a good uniform, it should be clean, and you should be wearing your badge, etc. in place. You should listen to the teacher. If the teacher is not there, listen to the prefect. Have a small break of lunch, then come back on time. Go back home, do the homework, report again on time. So great, but what does it train us to be? This kind of training trains us to be wonderful industrial workers. यूनिफॉर्म पहनने की आदत होनी चाहिए, बात मानने की आदत होनी चाहिए, पंक्चुअलिटी की आदत होनी चाहिए. अगर बाई चांस मेन इंजीनियर साहब नहीं है तो ओवरसियर की बात मानने की आदत होनी चाहिए. ये ट्रेनिंग देते हैं हमें बचपन से, तो हमें बड़ा किया इस तरह से, लेकिन इसमें कोई क्रिएटिविटी नहीं है, इसमें कोई डिवीजन ऑफ लेबर नहीं सिखाया हमें, कोई लीडरशिप स्किल नहीं सिखाए, बस ऐसे बड़ा कर दिया हमें. तो वो ट्रेनिंग आउटडेटेड हो गई. पहले तो ये ट्रेनिंग से ही शुरुआत हो. ट्रेन द वर्क फोर्स इन द राइट मैनर. साथ में हमें पढ़ा देते हैं, डिग्री के नाम पर चीज़ें दे देते हैं, कुछ नंबर वंबर भी दे देते हैं साथ में, हमारे मार्क्स थोड़े अच्छे आ जाते हैं, तो हमें एक इन्फ्लेटेड ईगो मिलता है अलग से फ्री में. मैं तो जानता हूं, आप देखिएगा कैसे आपके स्टेज तक आते आते, अगेन मैं पर्सनल ऑफेंस नहीं मीन कर रहा, पर तुम देखना कॉलेज सेकेंड ईयर थर्ड ईयर आते हुए या तुम्हारे स्टेज में आते हुए तुम टीचर्स को जज करना शुरू करते हो. वो अच्छा पढ़ाता है, उसको बहुत जानकारी है, उसको जानकारी नहीं है, तुम्हें है. बड़ा सवाल तो ये है. पर हम जज कर रहे होते हैं, उसके अच्छे भी रिजल्ट हो सकते हैं, बुरे भी रिजल्ट. ये नहीं कह रहा हूं आपको जज करने का अधिकार नहीं है, लेकिन हम्बल माइंड कौन सा है जो बोले मुझे नहीं पता, मैं तो खुद ही सीख रहा हूं अभी. अगर कोई आकर बोले ये अच्छे हैं या वो अच्छे हैं, तो मैं खुद ही सीखने के प्रोसेस में हूं, मैं उनके बारे में क्या बोलूं वो अच्छे हैं या नहीं। कुछ नहीं है तो मुझसे 20 साल सीनियर तो है ही, अगर मुझसे 20 साल सीनियर है तो कुछ तो मुझसे ज़्यादा जानते ही होंगे, तो जो जितना वो जानते हैं मैं उनसे सीख लेता हूं। अगर उनकी कोई बात मुझे नहीं भी ठीक लग रही, नहीं सीखूंगा। लेकिन आप सोचिए 18, 19, 20 आते आते हमारा वो क्लॉज बंद हो जाता है बिल्कुल। तो अगर वो क्लॉज बंद हो गया तो हमारी इवोल्यूशन रुक गई। अब इवोल्यूशन रुक गई तो कोई हमारे बॉस हैं, मैनेजर हैं, वो कुछ आकर बोलेंगे, हम रियलाइज ही नहीं करेंगे कि ये बोल रहे हैं, इनमें अकल हो सकती है, सारी अकल तो हमें ही है, तो उनमें कैसे होगी? अंडरस्टैंड इट लाइक दैट। मैं ये नहीं कह रहा हूं सारे बॉस सारे मैनेजर की बात माननी चाहिए, लेकिन या माननी जरूरी है, होनी चाहिए, लेकिन बोल रहा हूं हायरार्की में फिर हम काम करना भी नहीं सीख पाते। सो द चैलेंज इज दैट the training of the workforce missing. Another challenge of Indian labor laws is multiple labor laws in India. 144 different types of laws in India. That's again a challenge. With multiple labor laws, obviously the big industrialist with good army of lawyer will always win. So Indian labor laws have their multiple issues. Trade unions being dominant in India in many industries, resulting in harming the work rather than helping the labor. क्योंकि जो trade union leaders हैं, वो industrialist से बढ़िया जिंदगी जीते हैं कहीं कहीं, पैसे खा खा के, और जो कॉमन वर्कर है उसकी हालत खराब हो रखी होती है। सो वी नीड टू रिफॉर्म। और अगर जब मैं पढ़ाऊंगा तो तुम्हें पढ़ाऊंगा ही, बट एक बात सोच के देखो, इंडस्ट्रियल डिस्प्यूट्स एक्ट 1948, ट्रेड यूनियन एक्ट 1954, अप्रेंटिसशिप एक्ट 1961, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट लेबर एक्ट 1969, माइग्रेंट लेबर एक्ट 1979, सारे लॉ 40, 50, 60, 70 साल पुराने हैं। दुनिया बदल गई भाई इतने सालों में, कानून बदलो। इट्स एज सिंपल एज दैट। 70 साल 60 साल पुराने कानून चलाएंगे तो यही सब होगा। हमारा इनकम टैक्स एक्ट 1961, उस समय कितने तरह का इनकम टैक्स था ही नहीं, इनकम ही का सोर्स नहीं था, तो टैक्स कहां से लगाते हैं आप? तो इवोल्यूशन, और उसको अमेंड करके भी काम नहीं चलेगा बहुत बार, बिकॉज द होल स्ट्रक्चर माइट हैव चेंज्ड। तो ये हमारे चैलेंजेस हैं लेबर लॉ के, दैट वी नीड टू मेक श्योर दैट आवर लेबर लॉज, अनऑर्गेनाइज्ड सेक्टर वर्कर्स आर 83% ऑफ टोटल लेबर फोर्स इन इंडिया, नॉट आइडेंटिफाइड इन लेबर लॉज ऑफ इंडिया। So what protection are we giving the real poor workers? और मैं बहुत सारे लोगों से मिलता हूं इंडिया में, आर्टिकल्स पढ़ता हूं अखबारों में, जो कभी लैंडलेस एग्रीकल्चरल लेबर के राइट की बात नहीं कर रहे होते, इंडस्ट्रियल वर्कर्स के राइट्स की बात करते हैं। इंडस्ट्रियल वर्कर्स में भी पब्लिक सेक्टर वर्कर्स के राइट्स की बात होती है। एयर इंडिया के एम्प्लॉय को सुरक्षा कैसे मिलेगी अगर आप प्राइवेटाइज कर रहे हैं तो, और जेट एयरवेज के एम्प्लॉयज को, किंगफिशर एयरलाइंस के एम्प्लॉयज को, उनको सुरक्षा नहीं मिलनी चाहिए। वो ना इंडियन भी नहीं है, सिटीजन नहीं है हमारे देश के, मिडिल क्लास के लोग नहीं थे हैं वो लोग। ये जो हमारा वॉर्प्ड माइंडसेट है वो चेंज होना जरूरी है लेबर लॉ के साथ। दिस इज अ वॉर्प्ड माइंडसेट, वी लिव इन अ वॉर्प्ड माइंडसेट, वी थिंक नो दिस इज द ट्रूथ, दिस इज द वर्ल्ड। वंस वी स्टार्ट चेंजिंग ऑल दिस, वी आर कंपैरेटिवली बेटर ऑफ। बट ऑनेस्टली आई एम टेलिंग यू, you are the next generation. We need to train, and you will train the next generation, because we guys will be pretty old to train people by then, you know. But you will need to train the next generation in a creativity. They should learn to create their own. हम लोग ऐसे भी रट के पढ़ने वाले जनरेशन बनाते हैं आपको, याद करके ऐसे लिख रहे हो, ऐसे याद करके थोड़ी लिखा जाता है। हम बोलते हैं 4-5 टॉपर्स के ऐसे दिखाओ तो मैं लिखूंगा, क्यों? अपनी अकल लगाओ। 4-5 टॉपर्स कैसे देख के लिखूंगा, क्यों? मुझे 3-4 टॉपर्स की कॉपी दिखाओ तो मैं वैसे आंसर। टॉपर्स ने किसी की कॉपी देख के आंसर नहीं लिखा, अपने इंस्टिंक्ट पे लिखा, सीख कर, और जो सीखे यहाँ पे इन अ कोचिंग सिस्टम। तुम्हें वो बनना होगा, तब वो आंसर तुम्हारा आंसर होगा, नहीं तो तुम किसी की कॉपी ही तो करते रहोगे। तभी तो चाइना अमेरिका को नहीं हरा पा रहे हैं, वो अमेरिका को कॉपी करते रह रहे हैं। सो पीपल हु कॉपी, हु आर नॉट पायनियर्स, डोंट ग्रो। बट हमारी क्रिएटिविटी तो बचपन में ही गला दबा दी जाती है। हमारे टीचर आकर बोलते हैं जो मैंने कहा वो लिखो, जो मैंने लिखवाया वर्ड टू वर्ड होना चाहिए, अगर वर्ड नहीं हुआ सेम तो नंबर कट जाएंगे। लोग अपना रट के लिख देते हैं। वही कॉलेज डेज में और कमाल का हो जाता है, आखिरी 5 दिन पढ़ो, अपना नंबर लाओ, आगे बढ़ो। घर वाले भी बोलेंगे अच्छा तुम नंबर कितना लाए? इतना लाए, अब तुम मेरे लायक बच्चे हो। और मैं घर वालों को दोष नहीं देता, वो हर बात पे तो आपसे डिस्कशन डिबेट नहीं कर सकते। मैं पकड़ता हूं अपने बेटे को, अभी कॉलेज में है, वो अच्छा कर रहे हैं अपने रिजल्ट्स वगैरह में, तो जब रिजल्ट आया उन्होंने कुछ बात की, शाम को कुछ बात हुई, उन्होंने कहा इस सब्जेक्ट पे मेरा कमांड है, दैट वाज पॉलिटिकल फिलॉसफी, इंसिडेंटली दैट्स एन एरिया ऑफ माय इंटरेस्ट आल्सो। आई स्टार्टेड टॉकिंग टू हिम, आई सेड ठीक है, तुम प्लेटो के बारे में ही बात करते हैं हम लोग, तुम क्या क्या जानते हो? तुम तो अभी अभी प्लेटो पढ़े अपने इसी साल के सिलेबस में। तो thankfully I could contribute few things to his knowledge. I was okay with the knowledge he had, but the point is his knowledge was still not that what a university topper should have had. Supposedly he is one. तो मैंने उनको बोला भी कि यूनिवर्सिटी टॉपर की नॉलेज में और ज़्यादा चीज़ें होनी चाहिए, क्योंकि मैं भी अपने टाइम पर था. तो नॉलेज बेस क्या होना चाहिए, तब तुम टॉपर लायक हुए. नहीं तो तुमने मास्टर कर लिया सिस्टम को और टॉपर हो गए. मास्टर करके टॉपर होने पे आप थोड़ी नॉलेज बेस्ड बने फिर पूरी तरह. तो ये हमारी पढ़ाई की चुनौती है, ये मैं आपको समझा रहा हूँ. हमें लीडरशिप स्किल सिखाना चाहिए. लीडरशिप स्किल क्या होता है? आई शुड गो अहेड एंड से दैट दिस इज माई मिस्टेक. If a mistake has happened, and if something good has happened, I should name my team. Look, these are the people in my team, they are the ones who are the achievers. I should take the back seat there. That's a leadership skill. My team should not be taking my name alone. It should be a team that is working. हमें सिखाना चाहिए टीम वर्क. टीम वर्क का मतलब क्या होता है? ये मैं आपको बोल रहा हूँ, ये जो पॉइंट्स दे रहा हूँ, मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ हाउ टू एड्रेस द चैलेंजेस ऑफ फोर्थ इंडस्ट्रियल रिवॉल्यूशन. पहले भी बता चुका हूँ, फिर से वही बात बता रहा हूँ आपको. टीम वर्क सिखाने का तरीका क्या होता है कि आप लोगों को बताइए एक साथ कैसे काम करना है. लेकिन हम तो कहते हैं टॉपर बनो, तो सब लोन वुल्फ हैं टॉपर बनने के चक्कर में. सो वी डोंट नीड टॉपर्स टू बी देयर, वी नीड पीपल हु कैन वर्क टुगेदर एंड क्रिएट समथिंग. सो दीज आर few things. I keep saying that emotional intelligence is another thing that is needed, which is missing at times in our system. कोई अगर behave कर रहे हैं तो क्यों कर रहे हैं? मैं आपको एक छोटी सी बात स्टोरी बताता हूँ. आप देखिएगा आपके सोचने का तरीका कैसे डिसाइड करता है चीज़ों को. Just listen to this. Suppose there is a person sitting in the metro and he has 2 kids, and these kids are loitering around, dancing, running here and there, and this person is saying nothing, quiet, sitting down. Now, normally people would say what? What kind of person can't even control the kids? These kids are becoming such a nuisance. And then one of the person goes near to this person and says, what kind of person you are? You are not saying anything to your kids. They're loitering around here and there. And suppose this person says that I can't help it right now. I just cremated my wife. These kids have lost their mother. I'm coming back from there. What now? Do we have the emotional intelligence to even guess this? The problem is no. हम हमेशा अपने नजरिए से दुनिया देखते हैं. दूसरे के नजरिए से दुनिया देखना उसे इमोशनली इंटेलिजेंट होना कहते हैं. कि कोई एक शरीफ आदमी चुपचाप से बैठे, उनका बच्चा बदमाशी कर रहा है, दिमाग तो उनका खराब नहीं है कि कुछ नहीं कहेंगे, कोई बात तो हुई होगी. तो ये अक्यूज करने की जगह कि तुम कैसे आदमी हो, अपने बच्चे को रोकते क्यों नहीं, उनसे ये क्यों नहीं कह सकते किसी दिक्कत में हो भाई बताओ, आपके बच्चों को देख रहा हूँ थोड़े डिस्टर्ब लग रहे हैं, आपको भी परेशान देख रहा हूँ, कोई बात है तो बता दो. नहीं, हम मैकडॉनल्ड्स के सामने खड़े होते हैं या केएफसी में खड़े होते हैं या बर्गर किंग में खड़े होते हैं, देर हो रही होती है तो लोग भी फ्रेट कर रहे होते हैं, इतनी देर लगा रहे हैं, ये क्या बात हो गई. अब सोचिए 20 साल 22 साल 24 साल आप ही के एज के लड़के वहां लड़कियां काम कर रहे हैं, दिन भर सर्व कर रहे हैं, दौड़ रहे हैं, भाग रहे हैं, उसमें कोई एक आदमी ऐसा मिल जाए उनको जो उनको कम से कम इतना कह दे, हार्ड डे इन द ऑफिस इजंट इट, टू मेनी कस्टमर्स, ऑल द बेस्ट, कीप वर्किंग, यू आर डूइंग अ ग्रेट जॉब. Societies, countries which become positive and behave like that are developed. विकसित राष्ट्र तब बनता है. विकसित राष्ट्र एक दूसरे को क्रिटिसाइज करके एक दूसरे के मुंडी पे नाचने से नहीं बनता, और ये ट्रेनिंग होती है. If we train our next generation like that, they will become that. हम वो ट्रेनिंग कहाँ खत्म करते हैं? जब बच्चा इतना बड़ा होता है. Why aren't you wearing the badge? He is not wearing the badge. The fellow feels that Spider-Man is a reality. उसके मदर को फोन करके पूछिए व्हाई इजंट ही वेयरिंग द बैज, और वैसे ही चिल्ला के हिम्मत है तो बात करिए उनसे. बच्चे को क्यों बुली कर रहे हैं? तुम्हारे शूज पॉलिश क्यों नहीं है, तुम खड़े हो जाओ बेंच पर, क्यों? व्हाई शुड द किड स्टैंड अप? द किड इज अ किड, 6-year-old, 5-year-old, 7-year-old. But what does the kid learn? There is nothing called compassion, there is nothing called affection, there is nothing called forgiveness. Then the kid goes up to be 11th standard, 12th standard. Now the fellow is taller than the teacher. अब वो टाई वाई ढीली करके बैच आधा लटका के गुड मॉर्निंग सर. So what have we taught the kid? We have taught the kid aggression, which is negative in nature, and never taught the kid being compassionate. तो ये नया जो चैलेंज आएगा, जो मशीन चैलेंज ला रहे हैं हमारे लिए, वहां तो अपने किड्स को हमें ऐसा बनाना पड़ेगा. अब हम बना पाएंगे या नहीं वो तो आपके हाथ में है, क्योंकि अगले किड्स तो आपके होंगे अगर हुए तो. लेकिन वो तो चैलेंज आपके जनरेशन का है, वो मेरे जनरेशन में जो चैलेंज है, बहुत लोगों को देखता हूँ सक्सेसफुल, बहुत को देखता हूँ फेलियर, सो इट्स अनदर थिंग, बट दिस इज व्हाट वी नीड टू ट्रेन आवरसेल्व्स। लेबर फोर्स की शुरुआत वहीं से होती है, आप कैसे लेबर हैं उसकी बिगनिंग वहीं से हो गई, उसके बाद तो बस वो इंप्लीमेंट हो रहा है, you know, that is the beginning part of labor force, how committed you are to the work at hand and so on. All right, let's see this then. You write below this, yes, yes. So, you know, what I would suggest we should do is that we should be focusing on, again, the holistic idea of growth. That focus on how you create education which supports future growth, how you create industrial structure which supports that growth. I mean, if I educate you, like when I lectured you on labor force for 10 minutes right now, but again, the same thing comes that if you are educated, you are structured as a labor force, then you should be getting quality jobs suiting that labor force thing. If you don't get that, again, I'm wasting you. Because either you will go out of the country, or if you are within the country, you are doing something for which you are not suitable, or which is substandard. So, of course, it will need a holistic amalgamation. Then only the growth is permanent. All right. ओके, यू टेक दिस अप देन, बट मैं फिर तुम्हें बोलूंगा कि पहली जो शुरुआत होती है वो हमारे प्राइमरी स्कूल लेवल पे ही हो जाती है, दैट व्हाट काइंड ऑफ लेबर फोर्स, व्हाट काइंड ऑफ पीपल आर वी क्रिएटिंग, यू नो, इफ यू आर क्रिएटिंग राइट सेट ऑफ पीपल, right training in the mind, well, then half the battle is won over there only. You know, that is the part to keep in mind. Okay. Now you write the second point. This is first point was PLI in steps taken by the government. You write the second point in that. No, the incentive is 4% to 6%, Divyanshi, so you can't change uh, the incentive. No, PLI causing inefficiency in distribution is not a necessary factor. It will happen if PLI will result in favoring more of those people who are say outside producers than domestic producers. We will discuss the challenge of IPR laws, Karan, but that is a factor in India. Okay, okay. Let's see this. Then, second point you write, government has increased capital expenditure in the budget, capital expenditure in the budget from less than 2.5 lakh crore, from less than 2.5 lakh crore in 2019-20 to more than 10 lakh crore, make it more than 11 lakh crore, more than 11 lakh crore by 2024. Full stop. In fact, make it by 2025, not 24, by 2025. In the same thing you write, major expenditure has been on transportation, in a bracket you write road and railways, both, in fact, road and railways, transportation, comma, storage, and power generation, transportation, storage, and power generation. This will help in reducing logistical cost. This will help in reducing logistical cost. Full stop. Government has given infrastructure status. Government has given infrastructure status to logistical industry. Government has given infrastructure status to logistical industry and introduced national logistics policy. National logistics policy. I will teach you national logistics policy separately, but for the time being, understand it like this. When logistical sector is given infrastructure status, what it means is that they will get cheaper loans, they will get more loans because they can issue extra bonds and all, and their files will be cleared faster in the ministry. That is the benefit of infrastructure status. That industries which have infrastructure status, they get cheaper loans, they get more loans, and their files are cleared faster. That is the benefit of infrastructure status. Cheaper loans, that is interest rate will be lesser. More loans because they can issue more bonds, etc. And their files will be cleared faster. That's the advantage of infrastructure status. So logistical sector has been given that. That is, what is logistical sector? Transportation, storage, packaging, and measurement, and then the insurance and all that you take on transporting the product. That is the logistical cost. So how do you improve upon the logistical system in India? And the target is that today India's logistical costs are around 13% to 14% of GDP, to reduce it to 8 to 9% of GDP in the next 4-5 years. That is the target we are looking at. Do I believe we are clear on that? Okay. Then you write, in the same thing you continue, just continue one thing, right? Introduce national logistic policy. Same thing, उसी line को continue करना. Government has introduced national logistic policy to reduce logistical cost from 13% of GDP to 7 to 8% of GDP. There is a talk happening in India these days. There is a research paper brought by NCAER, National Council of Applied Economic Research. And that research paper is claiming that already the logistical cost in India is 8.5% of GDP if we measure it correctly. Then already it is low. But that is just a beginning of the debate. If this discussion heats up and it becomes a major factor, I will bring it back for you in our test series and all. But right now we have a consensus that we are at around 30% of GDP. But NCAER has brought up this research paper around 3 months back, claiming that we are already at 8.5% of logistical cost, and we can only go down from here, like do better from here than doing worse. So we will have to wait and watch how that research paper is absorbed and accepted by the academia. So if it is accepted more and more people talk about it and so on, then we will bring it back. But otherwise, I'm just informing you that this has happened at the moment. Okay. Then you write the third point, third step for promoting industry. Government has introduced GST. Government has introduced GST and rationalized. Government has introduced GST and rationalized corporate tax rates. We have already covered it, so I'm just making you write this. And rationalized corporate tax rates to encourage more investment. To encourage more investment. Just to recall for you, GST introduction will mean cascading effect is reduced, multiple taxing points are gone, and similarly, corporate tax reduction from 30% to 22% for those who will not take exemption, or 25% for firms which are having turnover up to 400 crore, or corporate tax of 15% for new firms establishing in India. If you recall, in our public economics, we had gone through all that. This is, again, promoting investments and industrialization of India. Next, you write. Fourth point. Central government has passed 4 labor codes. Central government has passed 4 labor codes to simplify labor laws in India, to simplify labor laws in India and promote industrialization. Next, these 4 labor codes I will be teaching you with the labor law reforms. I will be bringing them up. Next, you write. Government has taken several steps to promote MSME. Government has taken several steps to promote MSME by redefining investment level. Again, I will teach you all this in detail. I will be giving you a 1-hour talk on MSME alone. I'm just completing this. All right. So redefining MSME, providing better marketing possibility, providing better marketing possibility, promoting faster recovery of dues, improving credit facilities, etc. Then you write next. Government has removed more than 30,000 compliances. I'm talking about last 10 years. More than 30,000 compliances. I hope you recall compliances. More than 30,000 compliances, and decriminalized several clauses in Companies Act, to promote investment in manufacturing. Then you write next. In fact, government has also developed a national portal for single window clearance. That in some, not for all industries, but for some industries, there will be single window clearance. You just have to put your file on the national portal, and the portal will then evaluate your file, put it to the concerned ministry, and you may get your clearance only from one window. So that's another thing that the government has initiated. Next, then you write. Government has planned to develop national investment and manufacturing zones, in a bracket you write NIMZ, as integrated industrial townships, Now, integrated industrial townships are those townships which are developed to look after particular industries. All right, that is integrated industrial township. That those townships which are developed to look after particular industries. For example, when you talk about development of particular industries, say for example Jamshedpur, or for example Rourkela, these are all integrated industrial townships. So integrated industrial townships to be developed over a minimum area of 2,500 acres, hectares, 2,500 hectares, with 30%, with 30% of the region reserved for manufacturing development. % of the region reserved for manufacturing development. In the same thing, you write, the objective is to develop cluster-based manufacturing. Now, I'll tell you what that means. Cluster-based manufacturing means 5 or 7 type of manufacturing units developed together. All right, say an automobile industry developed along with steel industry, developed along with, say, rubber industry. So the input suppliers, output manufacturer, everybody together. And then you develop across. All right, that is the idea of cluster-based industrialization. So cluster-based industrialization for creating industrial corridors in India. I'll tell you what it means, like say a Delhi-Mumbai industrial corridor. So you create road connectivity, Delhi and Mumbai, make a national highway or expressway, and develop, greenfield townships on their sides. All right, so in that case, you're developing new townships, industrially backed, they are connected to each other, logistical support is there, and they are connected to the major market. That is the idea of industrial townships. In the same thing you write, the government has planned 20 NIMZ in India. 20 NIMZ in India. अब यहीं पर थोड़ा एक problem part है that we have planned 20 NIMZ. We started with NIMZ way back in 2015. This is 2024 now. Till now what we have done is we have notified 3 NIMZ. Karimnagar in Telangana, Prakasam in Andhra Pradesh, and Kalinganagar in Orissa. These are the 3 NIMZs that we have notified as yet. Notification means now the government has approved that these will be NIMZ. Now some developer will buy land over here, develop the whole area, create a township, then industrialists will buy land in that, set up factories and then start producing. That's too much of a time that is still left. तो 8-9 साल में हमारा प्रोग्रेस उतना, हमने बोला तो बहुत कुछ, हम ऐसा कर देंगे वैसा कर देंगे, हमने किया नहीं. So the real challenge is that how quick we implement. Our implementation has been poor. Sometimes the land clearance is not available. Sometimes the environmental clearance is not available. Sometimes the state government is not in tow. So all these are challenges that NIMZs create in Indian context, or have seen in Indian context. Okay. Then you write below that challenges for industrialization in India. Challenges for industrialization in India. We talked about steps taken by the government. So we talked about the 5-6 steps that government has taken. Now we talk about challenges for industrialization in India. No, so understand it like this. There are economic corridors. We had planned to develop 50. All right, no, so 20 integrated industrial townships is what we are planning. We have not yet been able to make even one. The challenge is that. और जब सरकार नहीं बना पाते तो वो क्या करते हैं, जब आप इंटरनेट सर्च करेंगे तो आपको दिखेगा, तो वो एस्टैब्लिश्ड टाउनशिप्स को ही नया दिखाने लग जाते हैं, कि ये हमने बना दिया, उसमें कुछ माइनर चेंजेस करके. और ये अगेन एक पॉलिसी ऐसी नहीं है जिससे कोई फायदा हो पाएगा. जब आप कोई नया टाउनशिप बनाएंगे तो उसका जो वैल्यू रहेगा, द वे इट कैन गिव यू ग्रोथ, विल नॉट बी मैच्ड बाय एन एग्जिस्टिंग टाउनशिप बीइंग अपग्रेडेड. ऑलराइट. 1,000 compliances. Yes, this is a process reform mainly. The process has been changed now. All right. Okay. You write then the first challenge, lack of implementation of labor law reforms. Lack of implementation of labor law reforms. So labor law reforms are now 4 years old and we have not been able to implement it because the state governments are not passing it entirely. So this is one challenge we have. Second, you write, and please connect it now, when I said the state governments are not passing it, connect it to the diversified and democratic structure of India. So since we have a lot of diversity, not everybody will come on same page immediately. It will keep delaying the process one after another. Second, you write, lack of land acquisition reforms. So remember, for manufacturing to develop, for industry to develop, you need a large land area. But land acquisition is a challenge in India. So lack of land acquisition reforms reflected in lack of proper land record, comma. Now what does that mean? We are still not clear as to whose land is which, for what purposes and so on. So lack of proper land record, comma. Lack of consistency in land use policy. Lack of consistency in land use policy. I'll tell you what it means. Land use policy means government defining the land use for industrial purpose, commercial land, or agricultural land, or residential land. That is how the government would classify the land area. So now we need consistency, we need clarity as to which land is for which purpose. So if I buy a land and I am told it is industrial land, but in the major part I see it is coming out as an agricultural land or a residential land, I will be troubled. So it should be easier. Now anybody can say, अच्छा आपको verify करके खरीदना चाहिए था. यही बता रहा हूँ that verification आसान होनी चाहिए और subject to sudden changes नहीं होनी चाहिए. That I should easily be able to verify which land is in which category and it should not be changed after I have bought it. Alright, that is consistency. In the same thing you write, comma, lack of ease in legal acquisition of land, lack of ease in legal acquisition of land. Even though we reformed the Land Acquisition Act in 2013, further reformed it in 2015, but still the land acquisition part in India is very difficult. You can acquire somebody's land, maybe 5 acre, 10 acre, 50 acre to build your factory. Somebody will come and file a case against you that this was my land also. The court can give a stay order, or somebody will come and file a case against you. This is against environment. Somebody will come and file a case against you that this land is already under dispute. Anything like that can happen. The court can give a stay order and your business is also stayed after that. So this is the challenge we have about land acquisition. अब एक example देता हूँ. हमारे यहाँ Land Acquisition Act में एक clause है कि आप if the land is owned by say there's a piece of land, say this is a piece of land, and say this piece of land is owned by 20 people. Say one person owns this much part of land and other 19 own this, like this. Now suppose an industrialist wants this entire piece of land to do their business. The law says that they can acquire this piece of land, even this adjacent bigger piece of land, only when they get 75% acceptance from the other adjoining people. Now that means even 5 among these 19 can hold everybody at ransom that I am not signing the paper, and they would want more for themselves, or maybe they can be instigated by someone, don't let it happen, and that can be a challenge in land acquisition. हमारे यहाँ तो यहाँ तक हरकतें हुई हैं कि ज़मीन बेच दी लोगों ने, 1 साल निकल गया, 8 महीने निकल गया, उसके बाद जाके केस फाइल कर दिए. मेरे समझ नहीं आया था उस वक्त, अब मैं रियलाइज करता हूँ मुझे धोखा दिया गया, और कोर्ट ने वो भी एक्सेप्ट कर लिया. Now this is very improbabilistic situation that I buy land from you, 1 year has gone, then you come and say, oh, I was fooled 1 year back, please take my case and injunct it. It sounds very pro-poor, but believe me, it goes anti-poor, because these people who will come back looking for their land must be again instigated by someone. They will be working on somebody's behest. आप ये हमेशा ध्यान में रखिएगा, आप ब्यूरोक्रेट बनने वाले हैं, ईश्वर करे बन भी जाएं, कानून तोड़ने वाले लोग कॉमन पीपल नहीं है. ये हमेशा दिमाग में रखिएगा. पॉलिटिकल क्लास उस पर जो भी व्यू ले, आपका व्यू हमेशा क्लियर होना चाहिए. पॉलिटिकल क्लास को तो वोट चाहिए, तो वो तो कहेंगे गो स्लो ऑन पीपल एंड डोंट डू मच. बट किसी में भी जो कानून तोड़ रहे हैं, पुलिस के ऊपर गोली चला सकते हैं जो, या जो थप्पड़ मार सकते हैं किसी सरकारी अधिकारी को, वो गलती से नहीं कर रहे हैं ऐसा. द पर्सन नोज आई हैव समबडी इज बैकिंग, the person knows I have somebody's backing, and only then this can happen. So as a person who has to apply the law, you will have to be strict with such people. You can't let them hide behind a cloak, and I'm saying it having practiced it. मैं दिल्ली स्कूल में पढ़ाता था उस वक्त, एक यही शायद स्ट्रिक्ट काम किया मैंने अपने लाइफ में. अदरवाइज आई हैव बीन अ लिबरल ऑलवेज. कुछ 2-3 लोग थे जो कॉलेज के डिसिप्लिन को खराब कर रहे थे, और खुलेआम खराब कर रहे थे, जानकर कि ये कॉलेज का डिसिप्लिन खराब हो रहा है. एग्जामिनेशन चल रहा था उस वक्त, मैंने उन 3 लोगों को रेस्टिकेट कर दिया. मैं एग्जामिनिंग अथॉरिटी था, मैंने तीनों को रेस्टिकेट कर दिया, एक्सपेल्ड फॉर नेक्स्ट 5 years, एंड आई पास्ड दैट एक्ट. और मैं आपको बता नहीं सकता हूँ मुझे कितना प्रेशर डाला गया कि मैं वो, और मेरा दूसरा ही साल था वो कॉलेज में. सो देयर वाज अ लॉट ऑफ प्रेशर, प्यार से नहीं प्यार से सारी चीज़ें देखने को मिली मुझे. इवन पीपल अराउंड मी वुड टेल मी व्हाई आर यू सो स्टबर्न, और मुझे ही स्टबर्न बोल रहे थे. और मैं उनको बार बार यही कह रहा था कि अगर यहाँ इनको एक्सपेल नहीं किया गया तो अगले साल ये 5 का नंबर 25 हो जाएगा. आपको रोकना उसी दिन पड़ता है. And I can give you some heart in telling you that was the day and today is the day. I have never heard of any indiscipline at Delhi School of Economics Examination Center. क्योंकि एक दिन आपको एक्शन लेना होता है, पहले दिन कि आपने गड़बड़ की, आप गए, आप चाहे जो भी हो, मैं अथॉरिटी में हूं, ये मेरा डिसीजन है. हम लोग क्या करते हैं, मुझे ये भी कहा गया, बच्चे हैं, छात्र हैं. 20 साल के बच्चे कैसे होते हैं भाई? 20 साल में मैं पीएचडी कर रहा था अमेरिका में, बच्चा नहीं था मैं. तो 20 साल में आप बच्चे नहीं हैं, 22 साल में आप बच्चे नहीं हैं, आप बिल्कुल अडल्ट हैं, आपको पता है आप क्या कर रहे हैं. और अगर आपने कानून तोड़ा तो आपके ऊपर कार्रवाई होनी चाहिए. और उस कार्रवाई को रोकने की कोई गुंजाइश नहीं होनी चाहिए. Unfortunately, that is not the truth in our system, where we start taking a lot of liberal view to people who are offending, knowing that they are offending. मैं ये समझ सकता हूँ कि कोई कहीं देर से क्लास में पहुंच गए या कोई एग्जामिनेशन हॉल में गलती से किसी के जेब से चिट भी निकल जाए, मैं वहां भी कोई दिक्कत नहीं है मुझे. मुझे हो सकता है किसी की गलती से जेब में चीजें आ गई हो और उसके पास से चिट निकल गया. ये भी हुआ था जिस समय मैं एग्जामिनेशन कंट्रोलर था. मैंने ये अथॉरिटी दी थी कि इसको छोड़ दीजिए, ये जरूरी, ये लड़के अच्छे बच्चे हैं, ये चीटिंग करने नहीं आएंगे इस एग्जाम में. आई हैव कॉन्फिडेंस ऑन द किड्स. बट अगर कोई जानबूझ के कुछ ऐसी हरकत करे विच इज अगेंस्ट द लॉ, दे शुड बी पनिश्ड. अनफॉर्चुनेटली वी टेक अ लिबरल व्यू एंड वी एनकरेज अदर्स टू ब्रेक द लॉ. तो ये खैर मैं 2 मिनट डाइग्रेस करके आपको बता रहा था, लेकिन जब ऑफिसर बन भी जाओ तो इस बात को याद रखना दैट पीपल हु आर ब्रेकिंग द रूल्स कैन नॉट बी हाइडिंग और शुड नॉट बी अलाउड टू हाइड बिहाइंड अ कॉमन नाउन. जो आपके मेरे जैसे लोग हैं वही इंडिया के नॉर्मल लोग हैं. हमें तो किसी को एक थप्पड़ तरीके से मारने की हिम्मत नहीं है कि भाई कहीं केस ना हो जाए मेरे ऊपर. तो किसको चिंता नहीं है कि मेरे ऊपर केस भी हो जाए तो कोई बात नहीं, मैं पुलिस को ही उल्टा टांग देता हूं. यह किसको ताकत होगी? जिनको लगता है कि हाँ ठीक है मैं ऐसा करके बच सकता हूं, मेरे कोई हुजूर माई बाप होंगे ऊपर तो मैं ये कर सकता हूं, मैं सरकारी संपत्ति को नुकसान पहुंचा सकता हूं और कोई मुझे कुछ नहीं कहेगा. यह गुंडागर्दी जब तक भारत बर्दाश्त करेगा विकसित राष्ट्र तो नहीं बन सकता. We cannot be a developed country if we accept this lumpenism. This should not be accepted. So this was my point. In land acquisition, this lumpenism is tremendous. जिनके पास ताकत है वो तो धक्का मार के लैंड ले लेते हैं. जिनके पास नहीं है, जो ईमानदारी से बिजनेस करना चाहते हैं, उनको नहीं मिलता. So we are creating a perverse incentive कि अगर आप अंडरवर्ल्ड के हैं तब तो आपको जमीन मिल जाएगी, लेकिन अगर आप अंडरवर्ल्ड के नहीं है तो जमीन नहीं मिलेगी. This is something which should liably change. Anyways, in the same thing you write, and high level of corruption, in land registration office, high level of corruption in land registration office. Then you write fourth. Third? Okay. Third. Lack of infrastructure development. Lack of infrastructure development has kept logistical cost high. Has kept logistical cost high. Fourth, poor intellectual property rights. Poor intellectual property rights have discouraged production of high value commodities in India. Production of high value commodities in India. That's another challenge, that our intellectual property right is not all that strong. So people are not designing in India. People are not doing R&D in India. People are not promoting R&D in India. Because people are worried that I can produce something with a lot of effort and somebody will copy it the next day. All right, that is the poor intellectual property right. Next, you write, lack of ease of doing business. Lack of ease of doing business, which is reflected in difficulty in starting the business. Difficulty in starting the business. We still need 19 permissions to start a business, and that takes a lot of time. All right, so difficulty in starting a business, comma, lack of single window clearance, lack of single window clearance, and lack of easy exit. lack of easy exit. If you recall, in spite of Insolvency and Bankruptcy Act, we are still taking around 2 years to exit. That's still quite some number. Then you write one more. Complex taxation structure. Complex taxation structure and lack of inclusion of important inputs like petroleum product, lack of inclusion of important inputs like petroleum product and electricity in GST. In GST. When I say complex taxation system, I mean still multiple tax slabs and a lot of exemptions given. So all that is a complexity of Indian tax structure that still persists. We can simplify it better or further. And then you write one more. Lack of proper training of the workforce. Lack of proper training of the workforce. To make them employable. To make them employable. And then you write one more. Lack of legislative reforms. Lack of legislative reforms like environmental protection reforms, environmental protection rules. Environmental protection rules to improve business conditions. Legislative reforms can also include land acquisition reform, labor law act, all that is legislative reforms that are missing in India. We need to do that. And then one more, you write, ये आखिरी है, you write, lack of administrative reforms. अरे 5 मिनट पहले ही गिरना था इसको, रुक जाओ. Lack of administrative reforms like police reform, for promoting investment culture, in smaller cities and rural areas. रुक जाओ गिर जाओ सब, कुर्सी वुर्सी पटको. All right. So these are the challenges. Then you give put a heading where we will stay on. You write way forward or structural reforms required. Way forward or structural reforms required for promoting industrialization. आपका सामान पटकना काम आया. अब आप यहीं रुक जाइए. Tomorrow I see you at 3 o'clock again here. Thank you. True, DMIC is another such, Karan. Gift is not an NIMZ, Karan. It's for services. Thank you, Karan. Thank you, Sukanya. Correct, Yashasvi. Thank you, Devashish. God bless you. आज कर सकते हो 9 o'clock के बाद. They will protect property, Sambhavi. Thank you, Vanshika. Thank you, Divyanshi. Happy Basant Panchami to you too. Thank you. Bye-bye. So thank you, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow at 3 o'clock then, people online.